Okay, good evening, everyone, or good morning for those of you in the US. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Parul, who is in her math journey. And we want to discuss a few things with her: step one, exam prep related issues, how she advises on students to prepare for step one, about her USCE journey, US clinical experience, research, and then of course the issue a lot of students are facing around 2024 accreditation. What will that entail? So let's get started. Without further ado, let me introduce Dr. Parul. So Parul, welcome, and why don't we start with a bit of introduction about yourself?
Hi everyone. Hi sir. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure for me. So for all of you who are here, I'm Parul. I'm a recent medical graduate from Pandit B.D. Sharma, PGIMS, Rohtak, India. I'm in the middle of my journey to USMLE. I have done my step one, I have done my USCE, and I have done some research work. I'm currently preparing for step two and ongoing. I'm also doing some research alongside, and I'll be applying for internal medicine in 2024 math cycle.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a very quick overview, but now let's discuss step by step in terms of the journey. And by the way, to our student attendees, we will take questions soon after this. So just hold on to your questions, and we can then take it either in the chat or the Q&A that you will have. So the first obvious question is around step one preparation. What resources do you recommend? What timeline do you recommend, given that it is now pass fail?
Okay, so first of all, one thing that I want to touch base with is even if step one is now pass fail, it does not at all mean that we have to compromise on the efficiency with which we have to prepare for step one, because it is eventually going to form the base for the rest of the steps. So you need to prepare exactly the same way you were preparing when it was in scores. You have to prepare the same way. As far as timeline is concerned, a good amount would be anywhere from 5 to 6 months for those people who do not have a very strong hold on their basics. But the ones who have a very strong hold on their basics, like in their pre-prep phase, then it could be around 4 to 5 months. Like that would be a very good amount of time to prepare for step one. And anyway, like that being said, the preparation phase, the timeline is very subjective. It depends on your own pace, and it's gonna depend on how well you are able to catch up things. Do not ever try to pace up just because others are having a very short time frame compared to you. As far as I was concerned, I did my step one after my final year of medical school, and I was already preparing for home country examinations. So my basics were good. I did like 6 months of prep along with internship, which was enough for me. And resources, I definitely would say that if you have good basics, then just stick to the standard resources like UFAP that we say, U World, First Aid, and Pathoma. Because everything that you're going to need for step one is so well covered in these three resources that you don't really need to go anywhere else. But if you do not have concept clarity, or if at some points before application you need to know the theory aspect, then definitely go for supplementary resources, which are video lectures by Bose and Beyond, Kaplan, or whatever you want to use. Whichever resource suits you, you have to go with that. There is no standard supplementary resource. The only resources that everyone has to follow, like by the book, are UFAP. That is UWorld First Aid in Pathoma. So coming to the point of supplementary resources, everyone has a different view about it. As for me, I think if you are in, let's say, final year of medical school or post final year of medical school, you know a lot of stuff and you already, you can just touch base with the topics and you would understand it very well. So Boards and Beyond is a very good resource to follow for that matter because it doesn't really go into way a lot of details, but at the same time, it explains the concepts really well as their application. So Boards and Beyond would be my go-to for that reason. And then there is Sketchy. Sketchy is a great resource for microbiology, and it is also a great resource for pharmacology because it has all the mnemonics and everything and makes learning very easy. And in fact, sketchy videos are so short that you can use it in your dedicated period, like continuously when you're doing, let's say you are doing anything, just watch them like and any random time of the day, and they will help you memorize a lot of stuff and very high yield concepts as well. So Sketchy is definitely a great resource. Other than that, there is Rise and all other videos. That all depends on you and your ability or your choice of which suits you. Okay. So yeah. And for the dedicated phase, the resources that actually helped me were PDFs by Mehlman Medical. I know lot of you must have heard about those PDFs. So those are very high yield PDFs directly based on the NBME concepts repeated in the all the previous NBMEs and the newer NBMEs. And I personally had a lot of repetitions directly from those PDFs. So they were really helpful. So anyone who is in dedicated phase, definitely go over the PDFs. If not all of them, then at least the ones, for the core sciences, BChem, genetics, biostats, all are good. So go over them. And I think that sums up, along with your assessments, that is your NBMEs and QWSAs. These are the resources that you need to follow by the book. And other than that, it's all just your choice. For preparation, I would definitely say that plan ahead and do remember one thing, that questions are your core. So no matter how much theory you go on, no matter how much times you do FA over and over again or listen to Boards and Beyond videos, you have to do questions every day. You can't skip a day that you're not doing questions and think that theory is going to improve you, because it's not going to help. So even in your dedicated phase, till the last day of, a day before step one, you have to do at least few blocks or one block per day, so that you're always, in that frame of mind that, okay, there's a question and I have to go by this way and I'm going to solve it. So questions, questions, questions. Remember that. That's your key concept.
Thank you. Thank you. This was very, very exhaustive, and I think we'll probably take some questions on that. Now, before we proceed to our students, Swati from our team has joined, and we did want to make an announcement. We are launching an app which will be available very soon, and this is some of the flashcard related concepts that will help you a lot. So Swati will probably send you a link to that. She's just joined us. Next question, Parul, is around the importance of US clinical experience. So tell us about US clinical experience, how you have gone about it.
Okay, so in your whole application, apart from your step exams, obviously your US clinical experience hold the most prime position. So if you have, let's say, 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 months of US clinical experience, it is said to be a good amount. And even though it does not say that it's mandatory like by the book, but it is, because programs use that as a filter to actually, review your application. So you have to have US clinical experience in your chosen field. So like for my experience, I did like 4 electives till now. And so what you need to know about US clinical experience is the differences, like, the ones that are available to you. If you're a student, you have the option for applying to electives to universities. And for university electives, definitely you have to research around the university websites, and the application process for every university will be different. You have to send in an application and they will like select you or not select you. So that's just for universities. And since now the COVID has gone, so most universities are opening up. So keep an eye out and definitely apply to universities. That should be your first preference. But if you're, let's say, a graduate and you cannot apply to university electives, or you're not selected for university electives, then also it's not the end of the road. You have to get electives and clinical experience somewhere. So there comes the role of networking and agencies. So definitely, directly get in touch with doctors, use your family networks to, get US clinical experience at some outpatient clinics or shadow some US physician by their permission, obviously. And then you can also go by agencies. Agencies actually do have a lot of good options sometimes. So that's definitely one way to go. I think USMLE Sarthi itself has a lot of options, and I did one through them. So yeah, it's a great one. So definitely go with that. And when you are like applying for US clinical experience, there are a few things that you should always keep in mind. First of all, do not geographically limit yourself. Do not do all your US clinical experiences at one place, because that will negatively impact your application in a way that programs will see that you have some sort of geographical, inclination towards a certain city. So do not do that. spread it out and especially do it over the East Coast places like New York is very iMG friendly. So go for that. And then there's, you can go for Florida or something like that. Anyway, anywhere on the East Coast is a good option for US clinical experience. And definitely plan ahead for US clinical experience. Like you have to give at least 4 to 6 months of a good amount of time to, for the whole application process, the documentation, the visa process, because it's very exhaustive. And with in the recent times, visa issues have been so much that students are getting rejected and applying over and over again. So plan ahead and apply that way. And for me, I did 3 rotations in Chicago for now, like for 3 electives in Chicago. One was inpatient and one was outpatient, and one was a hybrid elective, which was in and outpatient, and one was in Florida, which was again an outpatient elective. So yeah, pretty much I'm going to do some more, but for now I've done that. One advice that I would give to everyone for the US in clinical experience is that when you are there, try to perform. Like I know that you all think that when you are going to a rotation, you're obviously going to perform. That's something that we have on the back of our minds, but that is not so. Those LORs are performance based. So it depends on how active you are in case discussions, how active you are in shouldering responsibilities and helping each other around and everything else. And your preceptors are going to see every single thing. They're going to observe you on every single thing, and in your LOR everything is going to be mentioned. So when you are there, be attentive, be active, and definitely perform enough that you can say to yourself that I did well on this rotation. So that's definitely one thing to always remember. And second thing is that for a lot of aspirants ask me a lot of times that how to prepare for US rotations. So I would say if you want to do something beforehand, especially for any specialty, when you are starting with a rotation, try to learn about the bread and butter diseases of that particular specialty, so that when you are there in the clinic, you know the stuff. You know when a patient is presenting with a particular disease, especially if it is like as common as diabetes or hypertension, you should know everything about it because that is expected of you. That is the basic thing that is expected of you. Then know how to take history, know how to take physicals, your common drugs, their uses, their side effects. You should know this stuff because that is expected of you as a doctor. So yeah, for US rotations, this is like some things that you have to keep in mind.
So this was again a very, very comprehensive description. So from what I gathered for students is first, be proactive, especially if you have to apply to universities directly, apply well in advance. Second, have geographic dispersion. Don't concentrate on one geography. Then is be prepared, take proactive actions when you are in the rotation, always take initiative, try to present, try to help the residents so that they can mention it in your LORs. And it goes without saying, Parul, as you said, that 3 to 4 months of USCE is absolutely now a requirement. They don't say it, but it is just, we haven't seen matches without USCE. And of course, like you said, COVID is now gone. So a lot of on-site rotations are available. A lot of hybrid rotations are available. And like you said, yes, Sarthi does offer USCE. So Swati can probably point you guys to the link. We have, I think, a couple of things which you will find interesting is rotations with the program director. So we have 2 or 3 program director rotations. But take a look. And if you can get directly into Cleveland Clinic, Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, why not? But if you are having issues and all those things, take a look at our rotations, especially if you are a graduate. So thank you. That was very helpful on the rotations. Now let's talk about, and we will take quick Q&A. I think we are seeing some questions on the chat, but don't worry, guys, we'll get to those. Now let's talk about how you have gone about research so far.
Okay, so for me, like as far as I'm concerned, when I started research, it was already internship or like very end of the final year. So I did not have any option to go for ICMR like projects, which is readily available for at least Indian medical students. So that's something I could not do. But yeah, so I directly approached my professors and I asked them if there's any research that I can, participate in, or is there something I can start myself. So yeah, that's how I started with it. So the key here is, your seniors, okay? So that is the biggest thing that you can do for yourself when you're trying to get into research. Approach your seniors who have done research previously or who are on the USMD journey. Most of the times they are the biggest help in guiding you towards which professor you have to go and approach, because there are some student friendly professors in every medical college who will help you with research. Doesn't matter if it's an ICMR project or anything, they will help you out. So yeah, go ahead. And it's not necessary that you know all about research when you're approaching them. You should show interest, but at the same time, if like on the course of doing research under them, you start losing interest or you start being, a little sloppy, then obviously they're not gonna help you out. So the key here is definitely show interest. And so for research, start with the small things. Like case reports are the easiest form of research that you can do, and they are easiest to come by. Like you can approach your assistant professors, like because they are the most friendly in any college. So you can approach them, or you can approach the residents and ask them if there is an interesting case, read upon the case file, approach the attending physician that you want to work on a case report on the particular case. So that's how you start with research. Once you are into the zone and you have done with like one or two case reports, you can ask the attending to involve you in some original research. You can start with that. And especially for medical students who have the access to all the patients and everything, you can collect data and you can actually go for the original researches very nicely. And if you're a graduate, then definitely it becomes a little tricky because you don't have your college backing you and you have to be innovative with how you're going to start with research. So for graduates, the best thing you can do is, contact, first of all, reach out to your preceptors on USCE. When you are doing your US clinical experience, you can just ask your preceptor if there's any research project that you can involve yourself in. And sometimes they have it and they might allow you to. And if not there, if there's any good case coming up, again, you can ask them for the case reports. So that's the basic of it. And then we have the remote researchers. Okay. So there are a lot of research groups available. Like I think there's lacking remote research group, so you can sign up for that, and you can like try to sign up for different projects that they keep posting there, and you can get into research by that method. Or you can second thing that you can do is you can get into like project IMG research groups or peer review or something like that. So there are a lot of online research groups. So all these groups are more like they would post an idea, or they would like say that someone is interested in a systematic analysis or something like that. So you can sign up for that. And obviously from there on, you have to show interest, you have to learn, and everything else that goes without saying. But yeah, when you are trying to get into research through these remote research groups, you have to remember that there are a lot of people who have a lot more experience than you. So for even matching that thing, you should know your basics very well. So there are a lot of research courses that you can go for on online, and you can just listen to those courses. There are courses on systematic analysis and all those things. So you should know those courses. You should know basics on how to go about research before actually approaching to someone that, okay, I want to be part of the team. So you have to do that, definitely. And then lastly, the last option you have is research positions that are directly in US. So like Mayo Clinic, Hopkins, and a lot other institutes offer research positions to graduates, international medical graduates. So you can start directly emailing PIs, like principal investigators. You email if you like find a research, you like it, you can just directly email the principal investigator, like, introduce yourself and say that you are interested in getting into research. And if you're lucky, you'll get a reply. Most of the times you don't, but sometimes you do get it as well. So that's one option. Lastly, use your networks and try to reach out to people for these positions as well.
Okay, thank you. So just to summarize, research is becoming important in part of this journey. And if you are a student, you can obviously work with your own faculty. I do want to mention here that USMLE Sarthi does offer research courses as well with publication. In fact, we work with the Director of Clinical Research at Hackensack. So we have a structured course with publication, so you can look it up. That would be one option if you cannot travel, or if you're a student that cannot have dedicated 6 to 8 months full time. But yes, like you said, if they can get full-time positions after graduation at Harvard or Hopkins or Cleveland Clinic, that absolutely is one way to do it. So, but I think the important point you raise is if you are joining any of these remote research groups, you should take the initiative to learn something, right? Because not everyone is at the same level, and there will be people who are much further in their research journey than you are. So you should know the basics of how do you generate the hypothesis, some of the statistical tools, analysis, all those things. There are a lot of free courses on understanding the basics of research that you can do at Coursera or Udemy or others. But yeah, if you are interested in research with publications, look up our course as well. So, Parul, now I want to get to the other question which a lot of students have, which is what will happen after 2024 given the accreditation changes that USMLE slash ecfmg is working on. So can you give us an idea of what it is and what students should be doing?
Okay, so first thing that I want to highlight here is that most of the students confuse this one thing, that WFME accreditation thing does not apply to ECFMG certification per se. That is the last step of the USMLE journey that we are do by ECFMG. It applies to the starting of it, like when we actually register for the USMLE ID or the ECFMG ID that we say. So if your school is accredited like for now and it's not before 2024 and you have created that ID, you are still going to be able to give step exams after 2024 as well. So that is one thing that you should be very clear on. It is not certification. You don't have to rush and give step exams now. It's just the starting ID part. So even if you're like a first year medical school and you're like planning to go for USMLE and you're uncertain about this, just create your ID at the moment. So that's one thing.
So can you
Secondly,
help
as
our students understand creating an ID, what form do they need to fill up and all, so that they have a clarity on what it means to create an ID?
Okay, so when you're starting with your ECFMG registration process, you go to the ECFMG IWA website, and there is an option to register as a new user. And when you open that option, you create your profile that sends a link to the ECFMG, which after approval will give you your unique ID number. Okay, that ID number is used for all your step exams, your ECFMG login, and everything else related to it. So that ID is what I'm talking about. That process needs your school to be accredited, because when you are registering for the ID, it's going to ask for an option that is your medical school listed in the World Directory of Medical Sciences or not. As of now, if your school is accredited to that, then you don't have a problem. So that's
Okay.
one thing. That's Form 186 and notary cam verification. That is what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's the form that you have to fill out, and that's the process you have to go for. And next, talking about especially India, at this moment, NMC has already initiated the process of accreditation. So any student who is from India does not have to really worry about this thing, because we are in the process of accreditation and we are hopefully going to get accredited as well. I know this because one of the co-aspirants actually did email NMC, and in their reply, they mentioned that they have started the process.
Okay. So just to summarize, if your school is already accredited at this point, you don't have to worry. Just start the process, create that ID, which is filling up form 186, notary cam verification, all that standard process. You should be set to go. You do not have to take your exams before 2024. As long as you have the ID, you will be grandfathered into the new process. So that should be clear. And for Indian students, even after 2024, NMC has started the new process, and hopefully they will all sort it out. So Indian students and others will not lose the USMLE path or any options of USMLE, because they're all very scared or apprehensive on what could happen.
Yeah. And definitely one thing to add on here is, if there's someone listening to this webinar who is not from India, one option for you is like just email the medical council of your own country and confirm about the accreditation process, if they have started or not, and maybe you can urge them to start it, because that's one option to go for.
Okay. Yes, that's a very good one. But I think the message here is create the ID, and then at least you will have some time to plan your exams rather than getting tense after 2024. So you still have one full year, 2023, to create the ID and set this process in motion. Okay, so I think we covered most of the things. Parul, one more thing that I think we should talk about is volunteering and giving back to the community. Is that something that you have seen? Have you started about it? Because the match application does have one section on your volunteering. So is that something you worked on?
Yeah, I have worked on volunteering. I have some volunteering experience. I did not do it for USMLE per se. I was actively involved in medical camps and community outreach programs right from the start of my medical school. So that part just something built upon towards my application. But yeah, if you're a medical student and in any year of your medical course or even a graduate, you can just reach out to NGOs related to medical professions and reach out to them, just volunteer that I'm a doctor and I want to help with a medical camp or a community outreach program, and they'll be happy to, have you on board. So that's the easiest form of volunteering experiences that you can go for. Then there are some online UN volunteering positions that are really opening up right now. I was checking them recently. So you can just go on United Nations website and you can check for healthcare related volunteering positions and you can apply for that as well. You can go work, you can go for Red Cross societies and you can ask them. And then if you are in India, then there's a very nice organization called Switch India. So you can apply there for volunteer positions. And if nothing else, if you're a medical student, go to your community medicine department, ask them because they usually have some kind of screening programs, diabetes or anemia going on. Go there, volunteer. And then you can also, there are a lot of international startups that offer online volunteering like the safe space helpline. So it's basically related to child mental disorders, adolescent health issues. So yeah, they have like a system where adolescents can reach out with their problems and they help it out. So that's something you can do on your level when you are talking about volunteering. And it could be anything. You don't need a certificate for this, and you don't need to do it just because you're doing it for USMLE. You have to do it because giving back to community is part of our profession as well. So,
Well, thank you very much, Parul. There are a couple of questions that I'll take, and then we'll open it up as well. So one question is, does USMLE Sarthi provide end-to-end strategy for match? And the answer is yes. If you look at our basics course, Scratch to Match, that should help you. And maybe Swati, you can post a link to that. So in that course, every month we tell you, it's a closed class. So we walk you through one aspect, whether it's the step 1 prep or CK prep or other aspects of math. So look at the Scratch to Match course. Then Swati question, we already discussed the 2024 accreditation. So Parul, next is, did you give TOEFL for electives?
yes, I did. I did apply to a few university electives in the beginning because they were very less available. So I could like apply to only one or two, but I did give TOEFL.
Okay. Then there is a question on observerships. So will observerships help a candidate as compared to electives? If you are a graduate, unfortunately, you cannot do electives. But outside of observerships, we strongly recommend hands-on externships. So Parul, what is your opinion on this, observerships versus externships?
I definitely would say that if you are a graduate and you are first time going for US clinical experience, as Sir mentioned very clearly, that hands-on experience is way much more than shadowing experiences do. So what you can do is like you can go for one or two externships at outpatient clinics or something like that. And then once you're done with that, you have some substantial hands-on experience. Apply to observerships at like Cleveland Clinic or universities that offer shadowing positions. So that would help you create networks there and further help you in match maybe. But solely just doing observerships is not gonna aid a lot to your application because some programs do not even consider observership as USCE. So you have to always keep that in mind. And observerships, like some programs do always mention that they would not provide letter of recommendations to observer positions. So That is something to keep in mind, because if you're just shadowing a doctor, the letter it's going to generate is not going to be that great. So you need to have some hands-on experience, because programs need to know that you are well acquainted to the US healthcare system, the EMR system, and you'll be a good fit for that program.
I think you answered this question initially, but one student has this. What are the things we can do on a daily basis during USCE to get strong LORs?
Okay. So I'm gonna start with, like, on the first day when you are going for US clinical experience, first day you should observe, like really just observe how things are going around you, how residents are working, or how your co-externs are working, or what all is going on. And try to read through the patient notes the residents have already written or your co-externs have written. Get the grasp of how things go there. From second day onwards, start being very proactive in clinical case discussions. Volunteer to present cases as much as you can, to handle cases as much as you can, and to help around the clinic or the department itself. So that is something you should always do. And be prepared with most bread and butter of that particular specialty. Like if you're going for internal medicine, then diabetes, hypertension, asthma, these are the things that you should know completely about. Know about common drugs, their side effects. Your clinical, your physical examination and history taking should be at par, because that is something very much expected to you of as a medical student. And lastly, always be punctual, always be humble, and always be helping.
Thank you. Next question, I think I can take that. Do universities offer externships? I don't think universities offer too many externships. I think they offer electives, but externships, you primarily go to affiliated clinics, and you can check our website. But universities typically do not offer externship because of malpractice insurance issues. Let's see. Other questions? Anyone? As if you have other questions, of course, let us know. And also, if there are other topics in subsequent webinars you want us to cover, you can type here, and we'll be happy to cover in other webinars as well. So there's one question that just came in. What kind of things should we have on our CV for applying to university electives?
Okay, so for electives, first of all, most universities do prefer you having be done with step one. In fact, most universities actually have that as a requirement. So try to be done with at least your step one, and preferably with your step two as well, if you can, like before applying to electives, because that is definitely gonna weigh your application a lot. Then try to make your application a lot wholesome, like try to have some research experiences like beforehand, some home country research, your medical research college, and that would work. And try to have volunteer experiences. I mean, all these things do not really matter a lot when you're just applying to electives, but they do matter to some extent, because there are going to be people who are going to be applying at the same time, and they're going to have a much, much more wholesome CV than you. So try to weigh in as many things as you can. And most universities do require you to write a, you know, personal statement sort of letter as well, that why do you want to join the program. So do put in a lot of effort there, that you're writing it very nicely in a very personalized way that communicates that why do you actually want to go and do the rotation there. And as well as, like, definitely grade step scores are one of the prime requirements for many universities, like University of North Carolina. I don't think it actually accepts anyone below 250s, so that's definitely one of the major factors. Other than that, there are a lot of courses and certifications available online that you can do prior to applying for electives. There are some courses available in ACLS, BLS certifications. There are courses available in CPR certification. Then your HIPAA OSHA is your prime requirements anyway. Then there are a lot of courses by Open WHO or CDC. You can do that. And so these courses weigh in a lot when you're just a student applying for electives. So try to get that done, because that will weigh a lot on your application. And apart from all this, I think university electives require you to, give a letter of recommendation from your home school. So try to gather a letter of recommendation from an attending that knows you really well and can vouch for your work. Especially, you can, reach out to your own research mentors if you have any at your medical college, because they'll be able to, write very well about you. And lastly, when you're a student, you get a lot of opportunity to, be active in extracurricular stuff. So having a lot of extracurricular experiences on your CV makes your CV wholesome. And in my opinion, I think that does add to it.
Thank you. This was very, very detailed explanation. Another question, what is the least time that I can study for step one? So I guess they're asking what is the least amount of time in which I can take step one.
Okay, so again, as I mentioned this before, there is no least amount of time. It is very subjective. It completely depends on your preparation. If you're not doing anything else at the moment and you're not a student and you are, not even in a job or internship, then I think like 4 months of very dedicated preparation might help you. But at the end, it definitely depends on, how your basics are when you start the preparation. So don't compromise efficiency over, getting it done in short span of time.
Okay. One question, I'm a final year student, plan to take step one in October 2023 during my internship. And since most of the universities require step one score, I cannot, well, step one is now pass fail. So you will only have a pass or a fail. I cannot apply before that. And I wish to do my USCE while I can still have hands-on experience. So when should I apply for USCE? So the question is, I'll take step one in October 2023, but I want to go for electives. So how should I plan this?
Okay, so the thing is, it depends on when your internship is ending, first of all, because you have not mentioned that. And then, secondly, every university, I think, from what I know, opens application twice a year, one for the fall season and one for the winter season or something. So if you are giving step one, let's say in October, and if for the next season the applications are going to open up before you have graduated, then you can apply that way. And also, you can hang your internship, like you can leave your internship and go for electives and come back later and complete it if that fits into your schedule. So it's going to depend on when your internship ends. But like for the universities that require step one, definitely you have to, wait before applying. Your best bet is to apply in universities that don't require it. Like, I don't think UAB requires it. I don't think FIU requires it, or UNC does require it. Um, and I think there's a list of universities available widely online which do not require step one. So try to reach out to them first.
Okay. I can take the next question. If we cannot get into research, is working as a medical assistant good for CV? So these are two different things. Medical assistant, if you can work in the US, it is an excellent option. It's a great clinical hands-on experience, but it is not research. So research is separate. But if you can get medical assistant position, you can still do research. So that's that. Next question, probably I'll take that. Does hands-on experience as any private clinic in the US considered an externship? The point is, yes, it is considered an externship, but private clinic, the LOR may not have much value. So what you have to look for is externship either at affiliated clinics, which can give you a letterhead, the letter of recommendation letterhead on a university letterhead or a hospital letterhead that has residency. If you do it on private clinic letterhead, you can mention it in your CV, but the value will not be as high as an affiliated or in university experience. Can attending online CMEs boost our CV? So continuing medical education, boosting CV for USMLE, not by much. I mean, in the end, it is the clinical experience or research with publication that helps, and your home country work experience. Let's see if I have other questions. I have 2 PubMed index journals currently, and I'm in 3rd year. So 5 to 6 PubMed index journals with good impact factor by internship. Will this help me in getting university-based program? So, Rohit, if the question is, will it help you match into a university-based program? So first, you have good research. So I think you already have 2 publications. You'll get 2 or 3 more. That's good. But of course, scores in CK will be very, very important. So focus on that and other aspects of profile, like Paro had mentioned about volunteering and things like that. That will help. But if the question is, are you looking for university-based electives? I think Parul has already answered those questions in terms of, the pass of step 1 and other things, but you have a good profile. I think that's about it. Are there any other questions that are left? No. So, well, so maybe one question. Can you give an insight into extending internship for more than 2 years?
So the thing is that according to NMC guidelines, you can only complete your compulsory rotating medical internship within 2 years of span. So according to guidelines, you should never extend your internship beyond 2 years because you will always carry a risk of, having to repeat the whole internship again. So I think 2 years is a good amount of time in which you can complete your USCE and still be done with your internship well in time, not to compromise everything else.
Yeah. Last question, and I know you are preparing for CK. So the question is, till what time should one complete step 2 CK to apply for match session 2024?
Okay. So honestly speaking, like when I was doing my electives, a lot of students around me were still doing CK in June and July. So it's not anytime before July, if you can get done with your CK, it will be good because that way you will be ecfmg certified before you apply for match. So yeah, anytime before June, July is a good amount of time.
Yes, and I can add to that. So all our students, typically, you're right. If you can get CK out of the way, and of course, assuming step 1 and OET by June, July, you'll have sufficient time for ecfmg certification, assuming that the ERAS deadline for next season is also somewhere in September, September 15th, September 30th, etc. You will have enough time. And just as an aside, for the season 2024, we have started enrollment. So our platinum plan is now available. For those of you who are interested, Swati, if you could post a link. And we'll open up the gold and the bronze plan also later today. So take a look at that. And with that, thank you very much, Parul. This was very, very informative. I'm sure it really helps a lot of students as they are planning their MBBS and the USMLE journey. So extremely thankful to you.
Thank you for having me on the platform, sir. It was really my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And we'll now sign off, but I'll keep the webinar on. So if you need to grab some links, you can. And we'll see you in the next webinar then.